Hello, you lovely cups, it's the Dragon Lord here, back again with another What If. Now, today we're doing What If Giyu was Tanjiro's older brother, part 4, called Fated Encounter. Yes, that's what I named the title, anyway. Not much to say, let's just get right into it. Before I do though, like and subscribe, join the Discord if you haven't already, and you can always also join the Roblox group, as we're trying to make that grow as well. Well, let's roll the intro, and let's get into it.
I'm up now, 20,000 on a bus down. I'm on my way up, going up now, and I ain't never gonna touchdown.
Tanjiro, happy that his sister got accepted to the Demon Slayer Corps, would stay the night at the Butterfly Hashira's mansion. She had kindly offered both Giyu and Tanjiro a place to stay. The brothers accepted as they ate food together and then had a light spar. Tanjiro was able to keep up with Giyu simply because of the fact that he was able to use the Hinokami Kagura effectively now. Giyu, having more experience though, was able to get the upper hand, and it ended up being a draw. "You've become quite strong," Giyu would say, patting his younger brother. Tanjiro would simply look up and smile, being happy that his brother saw his strength. They'd rest, and the next morning Tanjiro got his next assignment, to head to Tokyo. So he did. He'd head to Tokyo and arrive close to nighttime. The lights in the city made him feel dizzy, so he'd take Nezuko and they'd head more to the edge of the city, where they'd run into an udon stand. Tanjiro would order 2 bowls of udon, and together with Nezuko he'd eat. He'd smell a familiar scent though. It made him drop the udon he was slurping down. The scent was that of the one who had killed his family. He'd stand up and run towards the scent, eventually catching up to a man wearing a white fedora. Kibutsuji Muzan. Tanjiro prepared to grab his katana, yet he'd see a child in Muzan's arms. This made him waver. The thought of the demons hiding amongst humans never crossed his mind. It grossed him out. Muzan would see Tanjiro's Hanafuda earrings, and he'd quickly turn one of the passerbys into a demon. Tanjiro would quickly apprehend the man, stopping him from attacking anyone. Muzan would use this chance to walk away, as he'd put his family into a car telling them to go home. Tanjiro would be approached by another demon, who would offer to help. They'd take the demon away, whilst Tanjiro went back to get his sister. After apologizing to the udon man, he'd eat another 2 bowls, grab his sister, and head out. He'd arrive at a secret wall, being guided by the demon boy, Yushiro. He'd let Tanjiro enter through the barrier, and they'd find a house of Lady Tamayo. Lady Tamayo would start explaining to Tanjiro who she was and what her goal was. She'd ask Tanjiro's assistance in the matter of finding a cure for demons. Tanjiro obviously accepted this, saying he'd be trying his best. Yushiro wouldn't be happy about it, saying that Tanjiro looks weak and that he'd just be killing himself. Before Tanjiro could counter-argue this, he'd send something. He'd tell everybody to get down, as a Tamari would fly through the room, destroying the entire room. Yushiro was dumbfounded that Tanjiro had sensed the attack before him, who specialized in this sort of thing. 2 demons would be standing outside. They'd laugh at the destruction, and out of the debris came Tanjiro, Lady Tamayo, Nezuko, and Yushiro. The Tamari demon boasted about her strength, saying how she wanted to play. Tanjiro, however, drew his sword. He took a breath, gripped his sword, making it crimson red. His focus was unwavering. Lady Tamayo, who was observing this, couldn't keep her eyes off of the form he was taking. She had seen this before, long, long ago. Tanjiro rushed forward at high speed. Both demons couldn't keep up with it. "Hinokami Kagura. Flame dance," Tanjiro would say, slicing both demons' necks, decapitating them both. Yushiro, who saw this, regretted saying that Tanjiro was weak, although he'd noticed Lady Tamayo looking at Tanjiro as if she saw a ghost. She'd quickly grab the blood of the two disintegrating demons. She'd walk up to Tanjiro and ask him a few questions. She asked about the breathing style he used and the red sword. So many questions she posed to him, he'd start feeling kinda dizzy about it. He'd answer all that he could about the Hinokami Kagura and the Crimson Red Blade, yet she seemed to already know everything he told her. She started explaining her own past to him, as she revealed that the dance Tanjiro did was actually a breathing style called sun breathing, used by the strongest demon slayer in history, Yoruichi Tsuchikuni. Tanjiro didn't know what she meant by the dance being called sun breathing, but the more Tamayo went into explanation, the more he understood. She told him about him using the moves in conjunction, which Tanjiro had taught about and tried. She explained that Tanjiro's moves weren't as perfect as those of Yoruichi and that he still had faults in the dance, yet she couldn't explain what his faults were. Tanjiro saw this as good news, considering it meant he could grow. The next day he'd get his next orders and set out. He'd have to ask the Flame Hashira Rengoku if he could help him, considering the Flame Hashira might have a record of sun breathing. Tanjiro, whilst walking on some farmland roads, heading to his next mission, would find a yellow-haired boy bothering a girl. He'd get the boy off of the girl, after which she'd slap him, and say she never promised him to marry. Tanjiro and this boy had the same mission destination, so they started walking together, as the boy started explaining his story to Tanjiro. He'd introduce himself after this, saying his name was Zenitsu Agatsuma. Tanjiro introduced himself as well, saying that his name was Tanjiro Kamado. Zenitsu would have heard about the boy that had started at Tsuchinoe rank, so he asked if Tanjiro was strong, to which Tanjiro answered that he went toe-to-toe with his brother Giyu, who is a Hashira, but he still had a long way to go. This reassured Zenitsu about Tanjiro's strength, as he'd ask if he could go with him. Tanjiro replied that he could. Zenitsu's stomach would growl, however, and Tanjiro gave him his onigiri, which they ended up sharing. They'd continue on their way, bumping into some kids on the way. The kids informed them about their brother who got kidnapped. They'd quickly make their way towards the demon's house. There, Tanjiro would leave Zenitsu behind to look after the siblings and Nezuko. He'd quickly make his way through the building at high speeds, using his breathing to run faster. He'd run into a fat demon that got killed by a boar mask slayer. He'd introduce himself as Inosuke, and he claimed to be the strongest. Tanjiro commended him on being the strongest and continued on his way running at high speed. This would catch Inosuke off guard, as he couldn't follow Tanjiro. Using his sense of smell, Tanjiro would find another demon. Inosuke followed him, although he was quite delayed. The demon tried attacking Tanjiro with its tongue, yet he disposed of it rather quickly, decapitating the demon without using a form. Right after, Tanjiro kept running, going for the next demon. He'd opened a door, finding a boy who was holding a drum. He'd identify the boy as the older brother of the siblings they found. At that moment, a demon would appear behind the boy and try to grab him. Tanjiro, however, intercepted, slicing off the demon's arm. He'd take a breath, jump, and slice horizontally at the demon's neck. Hinokami Kagura, vertical clear blue sky. He'd decapitate the demon in an instant. Kyogai, the demon Tanjiro had decapitated just now, couldn't even keep up with Tanjiro's moves. He'd slowly start disintegrating. He regretted his life, yet he'd see Tanjiro avoid stepping on his writing on his way out, and that in itself made him happy. Inosuke, who watched all this go down, challenged Tanjiro to a duel, but got rejected. They'd leave the building with Inosuke demanding a fight constantly. When they exited the building, the siblings hugged their brother. Tanjiro went over to Zenitsu, who was protecting Tanjiro's box. He thanked Zenitsu. At that moment, Inosuke questioned Tanjiro about the demon inside the box. Tanjiro would reassure him that the Demon Slayer Corps already knows and approved of Nezuko being part of the Demon Slayer Corps. Zenitsu, hearing a female name, asked if she was a girl, being the woman chaser he is. Tanjiro would confirm that she was his sister. This led to Zenitsu calling Tanjiro brother, and did get ordered to go on rest, as all three of them went over to Asteria Mansion. There they'd get greeted by an old woman. Tanjiro was given more respect as his rank in the Corps was already higher than theirs. Inosuke kept asking Tanjiro for a fight, and that night they'd fight, with Zenitsu and Nezuko watching. They'd only spar, but Tanjiro thought it might be good to test their strength. Inosuke would rush at Tanjiro, but before he even was able to do anything, he'd be knocked out by Tanjiro. The rest of the night would fly by pretty fast, and the trio had to go to their next mission in the morning, but that will have to wait for the next time. I'm sorry about the short part. I had to get this out as soon as I could. Anyway, I hope you lovely cubs enjoyed this What If. If you did, then do like and subscribe, and if you haven't already, you could click that bell to stay notified of when I post. And well, with that out of the way, to join the Discord, my name's the Dragon Lord, and I'm signing out.